Howdy folks, I'm Meet the Name, and you're watching Meet the Games. Today, I'd like to talk about my overall thoughts and impressions on the recent gameplay reveal of Bungie's Marathon. No, not the one from the 90s, but the one from this year. To start, I'd like to give my initial impressions, and then I'd like to delve deeper into what I thought of the graphics, movement, combat, and any other miscellaneous features. With all that said, let's get into it. I think if there was one word to describe how I felt about the lead up to Marathon's reveal, it would be cautious. I was certainly won over by the marketing, but I wasn't sure exactly if that would be enough to sell me on the game itself. And then the reveal happened, and I gotta say it was decent. It's clear that the game is still in development, so I can't be too harsh, although I do have a few nitpicks. I feel like the initial gameplay reveal was a bit too fast-paced, and made it hard to really get a feel for what gameplay is beyond just frenetic shooting and running. When the creator alpha gameplay was shown, I had a much more positive reaction because of how methodical things looked. I guess what I'm trying to say is, constant movement and action isn't a good way to gain my attention. I guess I imagine an extraction shooter to be slower, more methodical. And at times, I could see that. I definitely feel like once I get my hands on the game, I'll really understand the pace they're going for. With that said, let's move on to my next impression. I think what really surprised me was to see the art style in motion. It isn't quite cel-shaded, but it is very flat. The colors absolutely do pop amidst the chaos that happens in the gameplay trailer, which I felt moved a bit too fast at times, as mentioned before. With the creator alpha gameplay, it was nice to slow down a little and really take all the details and colors in. It reminds me a lot of the game Risk of Rain 2, which is a positive thing. What I really liked was how chunky and sleek everything was. Some of the guns have this neat, almost 3D printed feel to them. Some had square-shaped bullets as well, which, I don't know, was just really neat to me. Now for a nitpick, I feel that the particle effects in the game could make readability a bit difficult. There's a lot of flashy ones, and I feel like in the middle of combat, it's gonna make things a bit troublesome. At the same time, I haven't played yet, so maybe once you get into the groove of things, it'll just click. But overall, the graphics are positively gorgeous. Up next, my thoughts on the movement. Compared to other extraction shooters I've seen, this one seems to be the most fast-paced. There's double jumps, mentions of triple jumps even, what appears to be air dashing, and even turbo running. And personally, I got mostly no complaints. More options are always a good thing for the player, although it reminds me of fighting the Scout in TF2 a bit, which is some PTSD I don't want to live through again. Now let's get into the real meat and potatoes, the combat. Combat seems like it'll be fun, if you're on the winning side. Combat seems like it'll range from quick scuffles to more long-term engagements, depending on how well a team coordinates and utilizes their abilities. Can't say I'm too familiar with Bungie-style multiplayer, as I am primarily a single-player kinda guy, but I could see myself really getting into the game. It seems like we have classes that players can choose, and overall I'm mixed on them. Part of me likes the idea of everyone starting out on an equal playing field. You know, crappy pistol, no abilities, but at the same time these classes are made with teamwork in mind. Which brings me to a point I had in my marathon video on the other channel. What if you have no friends? Well, sure, you can just join into a server on your own, but you'll be outnumbered and outgunned. And I don't know, it kinda just sounds like you'll have to choose the Void class constantly and sneak around like a rat just to make sure that you won't get instantly annihilated by a 3-man team. I personally think that they should have separate instances for folks who are solo and folks who are on a team so that things feel more balanced. Bungie can't afford the servers, unless they already spent that $3 billion that Sony gave them. Now for some miscellaneous thoughts. First up, AI enemies seem neat. If you've been following the ERG, it was obvious that the UESC was probably going to be the overall enemy that we were going to have to face. And for the most part, they seem fine. They didn't really go into much detail on them during the presentation, so I have no idea what all they can do. But from what I've seen, they do seem to drop in as a pack and go down pretty quick if you aim right. They just seem like your standard human-shaped enemy that you expect to fight in these kinds of games. There are also the ticks, which are small enemies that explode if they get near you. I thought they were fine as well, if a bit boring. I would have really liked to see some 4 aliens from the original Marathon game make an appearance, at least some references in the enemy designs, but then again, maybe they're saving them for later. I guess they wouldn't want to show everything all at once. But yeah, AI enemies are fine if a bit meh, really hoping they spice them up some more. Now, what I thought was pretty interesting was the commentary they had from the developers, explaining their processes and how they went about designing the game. It's nice to see the folks behind the scenes, and it's great to see how excited they are to share their thoughts with us all. I also feel like we'll be seeing more of them in the future, probably in more trailers explaining how things work and whatnot. And you can tell some of these folks aren't used to being in the limelight, so hopefully this all isn't too stressful for them. Finally, we have the big surprise from the stream, the cinematic trailer. The 8-minute long animation had some astounding visuals and some really neat exposition to it regarding the overall state of things on Tau Ceti 4. The one thing that did throw me off with it was that its animation and style was different than that of the game itself. It was much more grounded looking, very gritty, and more explicitly violent. And it kinda makes me wish that maybe the game adopted more of that tone. But yeah, if you have the time, check the cinematic out. It's really great. So overall, besides a few nitpicks here and there, I think Marathon is shaping up to be a fine looking video game. I may have already bought a Sakaguchi Genetics t-shirt in anticipation for the game's arrival in September. I think now the big question is, when are they going to show us more? I know various influencers are currently showing off their gameplay, but I prefer it when things are curated from the source, you know? I have a feeling that sometime this summer we'll probably see an announcement of an open beta, leading up to the release on September 23rd. But with that said, yeah, those were my thoughts on the big reveal today. Let me know what you all thought about it in the comments below, and feel free to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this.